said trees.
One more minute before you switch. Switch.
This is the tough one.
I get it now.
The word has to end in a silent E.
Oh yeah. No, it just ES or whatever. Come on, I'm confused. Snakes. Yeah. Everybody think of animals.
So I thought that this was a fun carousel. Who thought it was fun? Raise your hand. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I thought you guys were great at it. Let's just review quickly what the focus was for this week. The focus for this week's spelling unit is on rule number 4. We haven't really gone over rule 4 much in the past, or at least not as much as we have with rule number 3, with rule number 2, and rule number 1. So rule number 4, you all want to read it aloud together. Ready? For words ending in consonant Y, change the Y to I before adding any suffix, except ing. So there is an exception to the rule, and you wouldn't do that for words ending in ing between these 4 posters. Leland?
One of them has more words in them than others.
True, so which one stands out the most to you?
Rule 1.
Rule 1. Why rule 1?
Because it has more words.
Because it has the most words. You guys did an excellent job. You know your rule number 1. I have no doubt about that. Rule number 1, I notice, has a lot of nouns in it. Would you agree? Person, place, or thing. And what you did here is what? You just pretty much added an S to the words. What do you notice about rule number 2? Think about it first. Think about it. What was your experience with rule number 2? Seth?
That it looks like it has the least amount of words.
It does?
So maybe that means that rulers use the least in spelling.
That could mean that, or it also could mean that we haven't reviewed rule number 2 in quite some time, and I think that we may have to go back and review a little bit more. 2 correct words used for rule number 2, and that's use to used, and rule. I think just spend more time finding out the difference in rule number 1 and 2 and seeing what patterns come out of rules 1 and 2 with the more words that we use to practice with. Was to focus on rule number 4, but for the most part, a lot of you, well, not a lot of you, but most of the groups did at least write more than one word down, and you did it correctly. What surprised me was this, so I think for next week's spelling unit, we'll focus your personal words too on rule number 2 and words that would fall under the word number 2 primarily for under rule number 2, even though Rebecca Sitton doesn't tell us this, I think rule number 2, you're going to find a lot more words that are verbs for rule number 2, opposed to rule number 1, where a lot of the words, or most words, are more nouns than they are verbs. So that's something that we'll pay more attention to next week when we do that other focus lesson.